This is Jordan Poyer, safety for the Buffalo Bills, and you are now listening to Cover One Buffalo Podcast. Let's go.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo Podcast. You're joining your host, Greg Tompsett, tonight as we have a real official NFL news. The 2020 NFL schedule has been released. We're going to have a good time going through that, being able to play around and hang out with everything that we have going on with the schedule. First, make sure you're checking out everything we have going on at cover1.net. We went through our entire series of being able to review each player that was drafted in the 2020 NFL draft. We did a show on each draft pick with Russell Brown, Christian Page, myself, breaking down what we added to the team. After we do the NFL schedule release tonight, we're going to dive into our position previews. We're going to be going through and identifying everything that we have at each position. I'm going to do contract breakdown, long-term implications, potential starting position battles, battles for the end of the roster, who's going to be able to make the team, who's going to be in position to possibly be one of those cut down day trades. I'll talk a little bit about the new roster setup and how that you still have a 53-man cut down, but that during the season you can pull guys up from the expanded practice squad for up to 2 games for that 54th and 55th guy. But unfortunately, we still got to get down to 53 to cut it down. And we'll go position by position to be able to do that. But the key for tonight is the NFL schedule. Let's dive right in. I'm going to bring it up here for everybody to see. The Buffalo Bills open up with the New York Jets. Some quick highlights. I'm going to go through week by week and talk about some of the different things, just some quick things off the top that I identified. The biggest one that I look at every year is, do the Bills get screwed on having any short weeks? And do they have any things where they're playing a ton of other teams coming off a bye? I can happily share that this year they have none of that. They do not play one team coming off a bye. They do not play one team who gets that extra rest coming into their game. I still need to dive in a little bit more, see if there's maybe any Thursday night games that give a couple extra days, but no teams coming off a bye. The closest thing they have to a short week are the couple involving the Monday night games. So obviously we'll get into it as we go through here and look at it. But, coming off of a short week, they're at least at home both times. So we'll talk about that as we go. So obviously our first game, home opener, love it that they're opening up game 1 against the New York Jets. I think it's great that we're getting that. They have a lot of new players on the Jets roster. I think that new GM Joe Douglas did a nice job in the draft, did a decent job in free agency. I'm still holding on to solace that they have Adam Gase and that's not going to help them. But they have a lot of new talent, so I like playing them right off the bat. I like them being on the road. I'd like to get that game out of the way before they get any gelling done that they're going to do during the year. So I like that. We then turn around and go on the road in Miami. Obviously, going south to South Beach on September 20th, early in the season, you have some of the traditional challenges that come with that and the sweltering heat down there in Miami. But I don't think that's too crazy. I think that's going to be manageable. We then come right back around back at home. You have the Rams having to come all the way across the country, coming to Buffalo there. So opening up, alternating home, road. So I think that's, normal. I like getting the Rams early on as well, getting them off of a long road trip. Then we have one of our long road trips. It's going to turn around in week 4, having to go out to Vegas. So anybody planning, a trip, obviously everybody's in the same position that I am right now. We don't really know what travel is going to be like. We don't really know what attendance is going to be like here. In our best case scenario, where we get into a pocket where you're going to be able to attend games and travel is back to normal in the fall. Let's all hope for that. That'll be a fun trip to be able to head out to Vegas, see what the new setup is like in our social distancing world and casinos and whatnot. But obviously that's going to be a very popular trip of where guys are going to be heading out, try to do that. One of our premium members, Dom, is going to be hosting, I'm sure, a heck of a party that day as the Bills head out there for Vegas. One of the only trips, this is one thing that I also looked at, we only have 2 stretches with back-to-back road games, and we don't have any stretches with 3 straight road games. So one of those stretches with back-to-back is early in the season. And you note here some of these ones eligible for flexing. I don't know exactly where that's going to be coming from, but the likelihood that Tennessee game gets flexed that early, I doubt that they normally don't flex games. Usually you see that later in the season, maybe week 10, 11, 12. So right off the bat, you're going to go road game in Vegas, then right out to road game in Tennessee. I think that's going to be a tough game. Obviously Tennessee had their playoff run this past year. I think that's going to be a tough one. But that's one of the most challenging schedule stretches. There is road game in Vegas, turn right around, road game in Tennessee. At least the shorter trip is the second one. Here's one of the short weeks that I talked about. So we're going to come off a Sunday road game in Tennessee. We're headed back home, and then we have a short game with Kansas City coming to town, probably our toughest game of the year from a talent standpoint of our opponent. The good news is Kansas City's also on a short week. They play that same Sunday. They're at home, but they're heading on the road. So at least we get them coming out on the road to us on a short week out to Buffalo. So we're hosting the short week. I think that's a little bit better than being on the road on the short week. But we're coming off the road and Kansas City's coming off a home game. So probably pretty even from a travel standpoint. But one of the short weeks that we have here, and the shortest one with only 4 days rest going from a Sunday to a Thursday. We then get a little bit of kind of a mini bye, which I actually like. So you're talking about 6 weeks in. Going into week 7, we get a nice 10-game stretch. So I think that's kind of a sneaky bonus where, although it's going to be tough on a short week with Kansas City, that 10-day stretch heading into the Jets game on the road is almost like a mini bye that you get set 6 games into the year heading into week 7. I think that's a nice little bonus that we're going to be able to add in there to get refreshed a little bit, head on the road to play the Jets for the second time. Obviously, that's the first time that we're going to play an opponent for the second time. We'll see what the Jets have been able to do, if they've how Darnold's looking, how that line is gelling, any of the new talent they added, how that looks. I think that's going to be an interesting pocket to be able to see as we mess around with where that lands us and what things look like from their season 7 weeks in. But a little sneaky bonus there with almost a mini bye heading off Kansas City. We then get our only stretch of back-to-back home games. So after that, we have a home game 1 o'clock with the Patriots, 1 o'clock with Seattle. I love that we get Seattle as a 1 o'clock home game because anytime you can get a West Coast team coming east for a 1 o'clock game, their body clock is at that 10 o'clock window. I think that's a nice way to be able to take a look at the, any potential bonus. And again, from when I look at schedule difficulty, I'll talk about this at the end. I look at it from a quarterback standpoint is about it. And that's one of the things that I try to measure: strength of schedule and who's going to be good this next year. A lot of people use Vegas win total. I'll talk about that at the end as well. But, I look at the quarterback more. So anything we can get of maybe Russell Wilson being a little rusty that morning, I'll take it. We then go right off the bat. So we have a home game. We head out on the road for Arizona, another one of our longer road trips here. So we go out to Vegas, we go out to Arizona, we go out to San Francisco, out to Denver, a couple of those. So this is one of our longer stretches here. We're going to go out on the road to Arizona and then come back with the bye week. The 11th game bye, or a week 11 bye week, is not ideal for me. I don't mind it because I'm planning on us being a playoff team. I think that that's going to be nice to have a late game bye week. And then, as I talked about earlier, when you combine that with that little bit of extra rest coming in from week 6 into week 7, and that kind of mini bye week and the 10-day break there going into week 7, and then a week 11 bye, I think that's a nice combo. I think that's spread out. You got 4 weeks in between there, and then you go right back on another bye, and then you finish out with the 6-game slate to end the year. I think that's nice balance overall. So the fact that we have no opponents coming off a bye, we have a decently spread out mini bye in week 7, full bye week in week 11. I think that's a nice combination overall. We come off the bye at home. I think that's another nice stretch there that we get a road game. We get then a bye week, and we stay at home that week coming off the bye, welcoming the Chargers. We'll see what that looks like. That might be where Justin Herbert is coming into play. That's going to be an interesting way to see where they're at. Maybe it's welcoming Tyrod back to Buffalo, or I apologize, Tyrod. So we'll see where that comes in as the season goes, but that could be an interesting one where we're looking at a rookie quarterback. The Chargers have a really talented roster, so I think Tyrod gives them the best, chance to win, but they drafted a quarterback 6th overall. He's probably going to play. This is now the toughest stretch of the schedule in my mind. We got 3 straight weeks with some wacky scheduling and 3 good opponents. So coming off that home game for the Chargers, we go on the road for San Francisco on Monday night. This is another one here where we also go 3 out of 4 games, potentially 4 straight on primetime TV. So we already talked about the Thursday nighter with Kansas City. This late game stretch, the Bills are all over primetime TV. So Monday nighter on the road in San Francisco, one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. Obviously, we all just saw them in the Super Bowl. I think they are very legitimate Super Bowl contenders once again. They've had a very nice offseason. That's going to be a tough game on the road. Again, right up there with Kansas City is our 2 toughest games of the year. That's going to be a big test. We then have a little bit of a short week, so a road Monday nighter coming then back around to at least the Sunday night is at home and it's Sunday night. So it's not a Sunday 1 o'clock game on the road after a Monday nighter. So if we're going to do a Monday night road game West Coast, coming back, at least it's at home and at least it's Sunday night. They're going to be able to maximize a little bit of that rest. So again, I think this is a tough stretch because San Francisco and Pittsburgh, assuming Roethlisberger's back healthy, that's going to be back-to-back tough games. A third one, we then turn right back around off of a Sunday night game, potentially again on a somewhat short week. They have this to be determined. December 19th or 20th could be a Saturday game, could be a Sunday game. If you guys remember, this is how the schedule was released with the New England game this past year. So when the New England game late in the season was announced here, they had it TBD like this. It ended up being a Saturday primetime game, and I think it's very likely this could end up that way again. Anybody who's seen on Twitter some of my comments, Denver has put together a killer roster. So all the eggs are in the basket of, is Drew Lock going to be good? What's he going to end up being from a talent standpoint? But they have set him up with a killer roster, picking up AJ Boye, Jarrell Casey for free, basically, for some offseason trades. They signed Melvin Gordon. They drafted Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. They already had Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton. They added that Albert O, the tight end out of Missouri. That's just a ton of talent they've added to that offense. If Drew Lock is real, which I have some doubts too, but if he's real, that is a killer roster that they're putting together. They get Bradley Chubb back, who was injured all of last year. Still Von Miller, maybe one more year prime potential. That's going to be a tough game. So again, that stretch there, the Chargers at home, on the road for San Francisco, at home for Pittsburgh, on the road for Denver, on the road for New England. I think it's very likely we could be looking at 4 straight games of prime time. I think it's already 3 out of 4 for sure. We have a Monday nighter. We have a Sunday night. We have what I think is going to end up being the Saturday night marquee. I think that's going to be a somewhat short week where we go to Denver for a Saturday night on the 19th and then turn right back around with New England in New England on Monday night again, back home to end it at home for Miami. So I like that stretch there at the end. I'm not terribly afraid of the Patriots at this point. I always am going to respect Bill Belichick. I never believe that they're going to be capable of tanking. I think that they're going to have a challenge with the roster they have, but their defense is still good enough to be competitive. So I don't mind playing them late at home. I'm curious, what does that mean from a quarterback standpoint? Is that Jarrett Stidham? What are we seeing from that combination? But the fact that we end at home against Miami, I like that. That controls our destiny. Hopefully, we're locking up the division at this point. 4 straight conference games, 4 straight potential, or 3 out of the 4 here, potential playoff teams. I don't know that Miami's ready for that just yet. So definitely going to have our playoff destiny, playoff seeding in our own hands at the end of the year here to be able to go through that stretch. We'll talk a little bit about some of the pieces that I expect to be able to look at, and that, it's going to be interesting to look at the combination of where these things fall out. I look at schedule difficulty in maybe a little bit of a different light than some people, and that I think that there's, people do the strength of schedule look based on last year's record. Some people look at the Vegas win totals. I think that's maybe a little more indicative of what's realistic. if you look at last year's schedule, I think technically the Bills have the 5th hardest schedule. I don't think that takes into account expectations for this year, who's had a good offseason, who's had a bad offseason, who fired their coach, who's starting over at quarterback, all those different kind of things. And you take that into account and you look at it, that puts us with the Vegas win totals, we're right in the middle, about 18th hardest schedule in the league, right there smack in the middle. I think that's about right. If we're playing the, some stronger divisions, we're able to go in and take a look at, where things net out from, longer travel and things like that. That's fair. We certainly don't have an easy schedule. We're playing both Super Bowl teams from last year. I think that's tough. That combination is there. But one of the big things that I like to look at is, what I have seen in my history watching football, is one of the most translatable pieces from a schedule standpoint is what quarterbacks do you play? And you never know with an injury that can change, but quarterback play, normally the teams with good quarterbacks have good seasons. If you look at the top quarterbacks in the NFL, we're not playing all that many of them. You go through this schedule and you're talking about Sam Darnold, you're talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Tua is not going to be available week 2. You're talking about Jared Goff. You're talking about either David Carr or Marcus Mariota. Then you're talking about Ryan Tannehill. I'm not afraid of any of those 5 quarterbacks. Then we play Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes is fantastic. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. That's a reason we're going to be underdogs in that game. Then you're going back to Darnold. You're going to whatever New England throws out there, probably Jarrett Stidham. Then we have Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, again, probably top 2 or top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Very, very tough. We go into Kyler Murray. I can't lie. I'm not terribly afraid of Kyler Murray. I think he has some potential. Then we're talking about Tyrod or Justin Herbert. We're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Lock, Jarrett Stidham, Fitzpatrick, or Tua. So out of all the best quarterbacks in the NFL, we're not playing Aaron Rodgers. We're not playing Lamar Jackson. We're not playing Drew Brees. We're not playing Tom Brady. We're not playing Phillip Rivers. We're not playing, so many of the top end, Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz. If you rank the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL, the top half of the league, in my opinion, we're playing 3 of the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. Obviously Mahomes and Russell Wilson are incredible. I'm going to put Ben Roethlisberger in that top 15. And then most of the rest of the guys we're playing are in that next middle tier chunk, somewhere between 16th to 24th with, depending where you have Kyler Murray, where you have Jared Goff, where you have Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, all Sam Darnold. Those are all middle of the road quarterbacks that I just don't think we're playing all that many special quarterbacks. And that gives me solace that, for anyone who's concerned about this killer, unbelievably difficult schedule, I think that it's, something to keep in mind, that when you're only playing a handful of the top end quarterbacks, only 2 rock solid ones. Anybody who's seen some of the reports of Roethlisberger and his offseason workout program, maybe he's not going to be ready coming back into the season. So we'll see where that nets out. But I think that the combination of what we're looking at here with good balance, no nasty stretches of 3 straight road games, no crazy stretches of, playing teams on the road coming off of where they're coming off a bye. We don't play any teams off a bye. We don't play any teams, coming off a lot of extra rest, or we're coming up the same short rest if they are. And the couple short rest games that we have, only 6 days coming off the Monday nighter against Pittsburgh, and only 4 games coming off on the Thursday nighter for Kansas City. We're at home for both of those games. So I think that mitigates some of the impact there as well. So overall, it's awesome to be able to see this. Now we all need to hope that fans are able to be there, and that the awesome Bills Mafia is going to be able to rock the stadium for those 8 home games. I love it that we open at home and we close at home. I love it that we get the home opener on opening week. I love it that we have Miami at home to be able to end the season. That late stretch of Chargers, 49ers, Pittsburgh, Denver, that's going to be a really tough stretch. I think there's a chance that 4 of our last 5 games are on primetime. I think there's a chance we have 5 primetime games here this season. So this is the schedule that many fans were looking for. This is the kind of thing that so many people were looking to be able to do to get that respect. I love it. The Bills changed their Twitter handle to Primetime Bills, and that's real. 4 games already, very likely 5 with the chance to flex more late in the season. Maybe the Chargers are on a roll and coming off into that Week 12 home game against the Chargers, maybe that one flexes into a primetime window. I think there's a chance for that as well. So maybe that Russell Wilson game flexes into the late afternoon NFL game of the week. There's a chance that one gets bumped back later. So there's a chance that we have 5, 6, 7 games in prime viewing windows that the entire country is watching our Bills play. And that's an exciting prospect that they think well enough of what's going on. And I think they've built a team that's going to allow that to happen. So it's going to be a fun way to take a look at that. I think it's going to be an exciting opportunity for the season. I'll get into, I will predict the schedule and the record going, through the year as we do the positional breakdowns. But I think this is a double-digit win team. I think that they absolutely have a chance to win 10, 11, 12 games. And I don't think 12-4 is out of the question. I think that this is a good team that has going to be the deepest roster we've seen in 25 years, and there's reason to be excited about that. So appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight here. Appreciate everybody that went live with us on YouTube here. It's the first time we've been able to take our Zoom channel and broadcast live on YouTube. We're going to start doing that from now on as well, now that Zoom added that functionality, and we're going to be able to go live with that as we're going here. So appreciate it. All of our Prime members, come on, check out everything we have going on with the premium subscription. Some awesome breakdowns from Eric, a ton of additional information that's going on. Hope you guys enjoyed everything that we have happening here with cover1.net. Check us out. But you have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.